Hey, hey, hey. Welcome in episode 7. Don't Spill the Mixie podcast alongside my co-host Maverick.
Maverick, baby. Top Gun.
Matt Veneman. What are we drinking tonight?
Big Red. We are drinking a little tequila Sprite instead of the vodka soda. So, went with a little tequila. How about you?
I got a little 1 3/4 shot gin and tonic. Went a little bit heavy-handed. Didn't listen to the Mixie instructions. I went a little bit off script there, just like we like to do.
Exactly.
It's a little bit stiffer than I'd like, but it's still pretty smooth. So,
All right,
gin and
sounds
tonic
good.
for the win.
Cheers. Let's get loose and cheers to the episode.
Cheers to episode 7. Let's get
Cheers.
after it. So in our episode today, we're going to actually go a little bit in reverse. We're going to start with our off-the-cuff, random kind of personal topics. We both, before the show here, came up with 5 random, and the other person doesn't know the questions we're going to throw out, and we don't know the answers ahead of time, even though you and I know each other really pretty well. We picked 5 random get-to-know-you questions. We'll start with that. I think that'll be fun for the audience, get something a little bit different. Then we're going to do a recap of where things are at with the NBA, where things are at with the NHL. We'll do a little PGA Championship catch-up. And then if we've got some time still, we might throw some NFL schedule stuff in there. We'll see how long we go at that point. But for anybody wondering, it's cold season. It's allergy season. We're fighting it. We're grinding for the people. That's what we do. It's all for the people. The 20 of you that are listening to this on a regular basis, we thank you. We're doing it for you. But
and shout out to Claritin D to allow us to get on today. So we'll give them a shout out and hopefully they help us get through this episode.
Future show sponsor Claritin D. So let's start off with these random questions. My idea, so I'll ask the first question. You're going to like this first one to start off with. What is your most ordered fast food item of all time?
Most ordered fast food item of all time. It's got to be something Chinese. Got to go Ode to Chopstick House. Got to go General Tso chicken, extra spicy, make me sweat. That's why I always tell Sean when I go in there, how spicy do you want it? And I go, I want to sweat. And he, no joke, he does. I go through a roll of paper towel every time I to eat that. Side of egg drop soup, sometimes hot and sour soup. I could go on a tangent of Chinese. It would take another whole episode. Maybe we just got to do a whole episode on Chinese food and have a couple of guests I know that are big fans as well. But that's got to be my number one go-to. Yeah, I would consider Chinese fast food.
I would consider that fast food. I think that qualifies.
Yep, and I don't hold the broccoli either. Give me all the broccoli. Give me 3 or 4 stalks in there.
Ooh, I hold the broccoli. Get rid of that. That's eating up real estate. That's way too valuable on my tray.
Yeah, I figured you wouldn't like it because it's green. And our buddy Steve Van Dam, not a big broccoli guy. Never orders it without, always picks it off, and I'm like, you wasted so much space. They put a whole tree of broccoli in there. You could have had 4 more pieces of chicken. I said, you got to figure out how to do this right, my brother. So we'll get him there. Yeah,
that broccoli's it's taking up way too much space. That could be for rice, could be for something else. That's why you go to Panda Express. Even though I wouldn't put them above we've got 2 local places in my opinion that are way above that. But Panda Express, for being a national chain, is pretty solid. And I love the fact that I don't have to mess with any broccoli. So, yeah, I like that pick. That's a good pick. I was honestly expecting Chipotle.
Chipotle is good. I had that today. That's always a go-to after a volleyball tournament. So played in a long, hot, humid volleyball tournament, which is probably why my throat's all messed up on Saturday. And hit up the 16-ounce can of Coke Zero and crushed a Chipotle bowl, double meat, no carbs, double hot. Sour cream, cheese, corn. Man, little Chipotle Tabasco on that bad boy, and that is a solid meal.
See, Chipotle, in my opinion, it's a good, in a pinch, it feels healthier than what it is, too. That's part of it. They do a good job of masquerading as not completely unhealthy versus, like, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King, the gauntlet.
Yeah, they don't mask it all. Yeah, Chipotle especially, it's not awful if you don't get all the rice and the beans and the chips, but even that, it's still processed to an extent, but it's not as bad as most stuff. But I would agree with you, they mask a lot of it as healthy. Same with Qdoba, but Qdoba's stuff is mostly frozen. At least Chipotle's is fresh.
This one for me, pretty easy, especially the last couple of years. It's definitely taken over. I've got statistics based on the app sending me end of year updates. Jimmy John's, the Plain Slims with the Kickin' Ranch. No question about it. Plain Slims, shout out Snack King for getting me hooked on Kickin' Ranch years ago, way back when. My life has never been the same since. And then there was a year period where Jimmy John's took it off the menu. That was pretty terrible. So I boycotted for the better part of a year, true story, and then they brought it back. So me and however many other millions of people got Kickin' Ranch back, and it's now back on the menu, and things are good. So Jimmy John's for me there.
Yeah, did they ever bring back the Sprouts, or did they have like E. coli or something? I stopped going to Jimmy. The last time I started actually going to Jimmy John's, the last time was when they had remember the bean sprouts or whatever you could put on it, and they took them away because it was a health hazard. Those were legit.
Yeah, I would get it without the Sprouts anyway. I get the plain
Yeah,
Slim. I have meat and cheese.
yeah. I figure your meat, cheese, maybe mayonnaise, maybe a little Parmesan.
I can get behind mayo. I'm adulting. The last probably 5 years, I've pivoted to being able to tolerate mayo. I get mayo on my Popeye sandwich now. Really good. Who would have thought?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a recent development though.
yeah. I hear you there. Normally, if I go sub, I go boardwalk subs.
Boardwalk's legit. For anybody,
I would eat
for our global
boardwalk.
listeners, that's a West Michigan staple.
Oh man, and I know you're not a big put
The Shreddies.
the shreddies are where it's at though, man. You gotta go shreddies. I know you're not a big green fan, but man, I always double up on those bad boys. Jalapenos, black olives, onions, chipotle, mayonnaise, and
You eat a sandwich the weirdest way I've ever seen anybody eat it. You
I do.
eat it and you pick at it with your fingers, and you literally just deconstruct the whole thing from the top down. You open it up like a laptop, and then you just start pecking at it with your fingers like nobody I've ever seen. And you've got a whole process to how you put it down.
I know, and that's why it's very awkward when I'm with other people and eat it that way. That's the only way I'm gonna eat boardwalk. Cut down on the carbs. Get
If you're
it?
not prepared for it, it could be very jarring watching you eat it.
Oh yeah, you flip it, and then you have all the condiments and everything on the bottom, and then you just eat piece by piece. It starts out with the cheese, then you hit the prostatini, then you hit the capicola, then you hit the ham, and then you get to all the toppings, and you just kind of spoon those off, and it's I don't know, it's a weird thing, just like the soggy cereal and everything, but oh, it just hits different. Hits different.
All right, fire away. Question one here.
All right, Big Red. If you could be any animal for a day, what would you be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, any animal for a day? Just a day?
Yep.
Um, Maybe like a snow leopard, something like way up in the mountains. I kind of like the idea of being like a big cat. I
Yeah.
feel like African cat wouldn't be like altogether that exciting, but like the views of being like a snow leopard being up in like no man's land, the views that those things have to have in the mountains, I feel like that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's cold versus hot. I don't think I'd be able to be anything in Africa just because I don't like to sweat and I hate
Yeah.
heat. And there was just exponentially more things out there that are going to want to kill you, get after you outside. If you're at the top of a mountain, you're just going to die to freezing. I guess that
Yeah,
would
I
be the
mean,
worst
snow
thing.
leopard is kind of the peak of the food chain. There's nobody that's gonna like bully a snow leopard even. Like they just
Yeah.
kind of dominate.
Yeah.
What would your pick be?
Yep. I don't know. I was kind of thinking a cat, but I'm not a lazy person. I kind of feel like it'd be nice to be lazy, just lounge around the house and cat nap all day. But I'm gonna go with a kangaroo, just because I feel like people want to fight a kangaroo, and then if you want to, f around and find out, I feel like it'd be kind of funny if people would try to come up and fight me as a kangaroo. Oddly enough.
I think yeah, that would be a fun one too. Bouncing really far too, seeing how strong they actually
Oh
are.
yeah, just whip people with your tail, getting fights with other kangaroos. Just go at it, just kicking each other. Yeah.
I'm sure people are gonna have comments about our picks here, and somebody's gonna say that we picked something stupid. Being
Yeah.
a like deep water fish that wouldn't like a Greenland shark. I feel like that would be interesting too. You're again at the top of the food chain and don't really have to worry about much. But like the ground you could cover in a day, and like you could explore the ocean in a way that basically no human ever could. That would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, that would be. I also thought about silverback gorilla because who's gonna mess with you? But then there's that thing now recently. I don't know. I don't keep up with
One versus 100.
TikToks and Instagrams outside of the Don't Spill the Mixie podcast. By the way, I keep up with that. But everybody wants to who's gonna win 100 men or 100 people or versus a gorilla? I guess is the biggest thing that's going around. I don't know. I'd put my money on the gorilla, but it'd be kind of cool to be one of those two. Like, who's gonna mess with you? You're at the top of the chain.
Yeah, the whole argument I've made in my mind, I've seen this going around too. I don't know who hasn't, but I feel like if the 100 men don't have weapons of any sort, then the gorilla would probably win. But if you give any semblance of weaponry, then the humans win. You can wear the gorilla down after 100 people.
I agree with you. I think that the other question would be what if you gave the gorilla weaponry at the same time? If you're gonna give the 10 people weapons, you got to give the gorilla weapons too. It's got to be a fair fight.
Yep, I would agree. Yeah, give the gorilla a big old stick. Let him go Donkey Kong.
Give him a couple barrels. Maybe give him some backup with Diddy Kong and
Yeah.
Dixie Kong.
Yep. Give him a green turtle shell, something like that.
Definitely.
So we can do one or two. We'll see how long this goes. But bucket list things you want to do.
Bucket list things I want to do. I want to really get out of the U.S. for a vacation somewhere. I want
Oh, you mean like going to Ireland?
Yeah, going to Ireland. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Those that are listening or not listening may know what we're winking
If
about.
you know, you know.
If you know, you know, baby. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to go to a maybe not necessarily a sandals resort, but I want to go to somewhere on a beach, clear blue water. Not no sharks, obviously. I wouldn't want to be in any water with sharks, but go swim, go out on a boat, maybe rent out a sailboat or a small yacht or something with a group, and just go relax in like a tropical space. That's at the top of the list. And ultimately, I've had two chances at this, failed at both. The Eagles have made the Super Bowl 2 times in a row, but if they're fortunate enough to make it a third time, I've been saving some pennies here and there, and I would like to go to an Eagles Super Bowl or a Super Bowl in general, just for the experience. I don't know if I'd want to go more than once or not. I feel like it's kind of a lot of rigmarole for just going to a game when you could just sit in front of your couch. It's a lot of hoopla, but I think it'd be kind of sweet to go experience that at least once. What about yourself, my friend?
Yeah, travel is always going to be up there. Italy would be way up on my list. I want to hit Italy one time in my life. There's so many cool spots to hit in Italy. You've done Spain. I think Spain is pretty cool too. I think Spain's up there.
Yeah, Spain was great. Good food.
Trying to think of other stuff here in the U.S. I want to do more family trips than what I did as a kid. Sports was such a dominant thing during the summer that like family travel wasn't really a huge thing during the summertime. So I feel like traveling and seeing more of the national parks and that type of thing, doing family trips around those would be very fun. Trying to think of what else.
One I would suggest, and when a good friend of mine, Russell, moved from Seattle back to Michigan, I had the opportunity to fly out to Seattle and road trip with him back from Seattle back to Michigan, and just Yellowstone National Park, driving through Idaho and Montana, the Dakotas, Nebraska. It's beautiful. There's not a lot of big cities. So you're driving out in the mountains, you're driving between the mountains, blue sky, few clouds, just running water. That is on my list as well, to get out and do that again. But I would suggest that. I know a lot of families sometimes go out there and they rent the big RVs and the camper vans and doing that kind of stuff, but that's one I would suggest. That's a very good family friendly one. You can camp up there really easily, easy road to travel. Very nice. So that's one I would have you put on your list or at least check out at some point.
Yeah, Yellowstone's definitely up there. Getting out to that part of the country, that's a part of the country I've never really explored. Been to Colorado once, but it was on a very structured school trip. So didn't really get to like randomly explore, very set in a like resort type area. So being a big fan of the TV show Yellowstone too, like the Montana area, Big Sky Country, getting out there would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you got to get out
So
to Bozeman.
yep, yep. So that whole thing out there would be super cool. That's on my list for sure.
Yep. All right, Big Red, here's one for you. What is a weird smell that you really enjoy?
A weird smell that I really enjoy. That's a good one. A weird smell.
I knew this one was going to put you on the spot. If you need a second, I can answer mine.
Yeah, fire away. Go if you got one
I
handy.
I love the smell of gasoline. It's a weird thing. Like at the pump, whenever it spills out or whatever, it's like gets on your fingers and you smell it. You're like, oh man, you're like that's not good. And then you like go back for a couple more sniffs of that gasoline. I don't know what it is, or a copper penny, the weird smell of a penny. I don't know. Those two things are. I feel like they're odd, but weirdly like, all right, I can't just get one sniff.
Gasoline, it's weird that you mentioned that. I don't the smell at the pump doesn't do it for me, but I do like the smell of like burning gas and oil. Um and like that's mostly in reference to my old Honda Ruckus that I used to have, RIP to the Ruckus. And then also the smell when you're at like race. So like we've got Berlin Raceway here in town. That's like a small local racetrack that got little four banger series and like minor league racing type of thing. And I love the smell out there, but that's like a combination of gas, oil, burning rubber, the quick dry mix when there's an accident, like this whole combination of smells, like that deep fried smell. Um, Probably people wouldn't necessarily say this is weird, but one smell that is so distinct to me is the smell when you walk into a really good baseball park.
Yeah.
Like that smell of the one that I think of obviously because I've been there the most for big league parks is Comerica, and that smell of peppers and onions and Italian sausage and just this whole combination of food, and then it kind of you can smell the beer in the air too, and then you've got the roasted almonds that are in there
I was gonna
too.
say I was hoping you weren't gonna leave that out. I was gonna say those roasted almonds are legit.
Just this
They
whole
don't taste.
combination.
The taste of them is okay. The smell, 10 times better. 10 times better.
Yeah, you get that same thing when you're walking through the mall during the holidays too, because they always put the roasted almond stand right in the middle of the mall too to try and lure you in. But that smell of like that cooking caramelized sugar, oh, outrageous! Like you said, they don't taste nearly as good. They don't taste bad, but like that smell is like a 10 out of 10 smell,
Yeah.
and like the taste for roasted almonds just doesn't never quite lives up to it.
No, I would agree.
But that ballpark smell would probably be it. Like that combination of like old stale beer, peppers, onions, Italian sausage, pizza, roasted almonds, all that all together. A little
Beer,
bit of like
beer
sweat.
somebody spilled the day before, and it's just roasting in the sun on the cement.
Yep, that whole thing. That whole thing. All right. Question 3. One skill you'd like to develop.
Ooh, one skill I would like to develop. I don't know if it's a specific skill, but I think we've talked about it on our guys' calls on Thursdays. Some stuff that we'd like to do now that we're getting a little bit older is a little bit more handyman type stuff. I know you've done a good job because you got the chickens, and I know you've done Kyle, and I think you've done some woodworking and tried to do some stuff, building a couch for the outside and some exterior stuff. So, um, I think at this summer I'm going to try to dabble in doing some home repair projects. I got some good friends down here that are really good at it and can bail me out if I get too far and don't know what I'm doing, or will come over and give me a hand. So I want to do some potentially bathroom slight remodels. Um, Yeah, just do some more stuff with my hands and figure out some other stuff to do and figure out some other skills and trades. I replaced a doorknob the other day for the first time. I had to, as easy as it was, I didn't think it was going to be that easy, but I locked the car in the garage and had to get into it. So I had the locksmith come in the lightning at 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, drill the whole thing out, and I had to order a new doorknob and replace it. So I felt pretty good about myself there. I put that in with 2 screws, so it's not a big deal, but I was pretty proud of it. How about you, Big Red?
Speaking of doorknobs, before we get to my skill, excuse me, the doorknob isn't as easy or straightforward as you might think. I've replaced locks on our current house. One thing I realized is that some doorknobs are set further away from the door frame itself during this process, and there are apparently 2 settings with setting your little door closing mechanism that keeps the door shut.
Oh, the latch.
Yes, the latch. That's exactly the word I was looking for. You made me sound like I was way handier, and then I just completely brought everybody back to earth.
Well, that's because I just replaced that doorknob, or I would have never even known it was a latch. See, I got
the
your
latch.
back. I got your back.
The latch. So the first lock that I replaced on this house, I could not for the life of me figure out why the doorknob wasn't lining up with the hole on the door. And my solution to that was to basically like grind down part of the door. And what it looks like now, if you were to come over and look at that door, it looks like a Wolverine went at it for about 15 or 20 minutes and just like chewed on the side of the door. Like it looks awful. But after that, because it makes more sense to look it up after you're done, I realized that there's a thing that you can hit on the latch that is an expander, and then it'll fill that gap for you. I realized this on subsequent doors when changing the locks, and then it wasn't a problem. So funny that you mentioned replacing doors. It's not necessarily as straightforward as what you might think, and that's not all standard sizing.
Oh man, I must have got really lucky. I just ordered an Amazon Basics and it fit like a charm, so I must have had a little luck there.
You dodged a bullet there, because like I said, mine looks like a Wolverine. Spent the better part of an hour chewing on the side of it. Skill that I wish I could develop. I told Brittany earlier this weekend that I wish I had more time for fishing. I'd like to become an avid fisherman. Like I say, I'd like to become. I don't know, that makes it seem too lofty. That's just recent coming to mind because I literally just had that conversation with her. I do fish, but not as much as I would like to, and I like the idea of like if I was to fish more, like there's that potential of being able to actually, like I've never fished for the sake of like bringing fish home to actually cook it and eat it. So, and I do like quite a lot of fish, especially as I get older and a significantly more sophisticated palate. Like I like the idea of smoking salmon. That's really good. Any whitefish is phenomenal. Walleye is outrageously good, and we have a really good walleye season here in Michigan, obviously. So fishing would be way up there for me. I've dabbled in some woodworking stuff. The chickens were kind of a random thing. You mentioned those. That kind of came out of nowhere. We slept on that for about 5.5 minutes before we decided we were going to get chickens. We went down a YouTube rabbit hole, so that was kind of funny.
Did they survive the storm the other night?
They did survive the storm. All 4 chickens are in good health. Everybody's laying like they're supposed to.
Good. We
got Blackie, Favorite, Big White, and Little White. So everybody's 4 favorite chickens. Shout out to them. We're a chicken podcast. So someday I will do more livestock when I'm older. So that is something that will happen at some point. We'll get more land eventually and do more livestock. I would like to do, I say livestock, that makes it sound like way more production based. We would own cows and they would be yard decorations. We would not, Brittany would get way attached to the cows that we could not ever process and eat them.
Yeah, livestock pets.
Yes, raising cows, I think would be the appropriate term for that, but figuring out how to do that. So, when our chickens die, I don't know what we're gonna do with them besides maybe just bury them, which feels like a waste. But there's no way that we would be able to eat them because they're just bona fide pets now.
Yeah. Well, at that point, you got to weigh what's the price of chicken and chicken breasts and chicken wings. You might be able to make a little pretty penny on those.
Yeah, I might need to just call our buddy Derek and have him come over here. He'd probably be able to make something of them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, question 3 for you.
Question 3. Actually, mine was similar to that, so I'm gonna skip that one. What would you choose if you had to choose one meal to eat for the entire rest of your life?
Oh, this is an easy one. Pizza and I mean, name a potato chip. If we're going like multiple courses and like random things that like throw bananas in there. I love bananas. I could eat bananas all the time. So throw that in there as like my somewhat healthy option. But pizza, um, I guess if we're going one thing to eat the rest of your life, pizza, chicken wings, bananas, water. Boring with water, but
Ooh, a little H2O.
yeah, keep hydrated. All that other stuff is really salty. So, um, yeah, that would probably round it out. That's an easy one though. You?
Yeah, yeah. This is where I was gonna go to Chipotle, but we kind of already covered that. So I've been racking my brain. What else is there? I don't know. My growing up, uh, we'd always go on over every Sunday to my grandma's, grandparents, and we'd have Sunday dinner. It would be a pot roast, beef roast, pork roast, sweet potato. It'd be like a mini Thanksgiving. Um, so if I could choose, maybe it's an escape, either that or Thanksgiving meal. I get it. There's a whole bunch of different foods, but yeah, that's probably what I would get. That would probably be my last meal. Is give me a good Thanksgiving feast with turkey, sweet potatoes, mashed potatoes and gravy, green beans, cucumbers and vinegar. What else we got? Stuffing, obviously, for sure. And then give me a nice either piece of sweet potato pie or pumpkin pie with just loaded, fresh made whipped cream.
See,
And I'll be happy as
diversity. Like I feel like you cover a lot of bases with diversity going Thanksgiving dinner. Like you
exactly that.
pull out,
That was my loophole.
yeah, you pull out like 12 or 13 options there. Like from a diversity standpoint, you got way more options. That's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah. But if I could eat pizza for the rest of my life and not have to worry about gaining a pound, then definitely pizza, hands down. Especially if there was unlimited condiments you could put on it. Like one night you
Yeah.
throw a little Frank's Red Hot on it, one night a little Tabasco, a little ranch, sometimes a garlic ranch. Because you can flavor that bad boy up anyway, even if it's just a plain cheese pizza.
I mean, I've never once gotten tired of pizza in all of my life. I don't think I
Yeah.
ever will. Because you can just change up the toppings and it feels like a totally different meal.
Yep. Or we should give a shout out to our one of our favorites, Kyle, who's going to eventually listen to the podcast. He said maybe this will be his test. Pizza rolls, Tostino's pizza rolls, a little bit of salt on them. That's his go-to on guys' weekend. So this will be his test. If he brings it up and says, "Hey, thanks for the shout out," at least we'll know he's listening. But those are legit too. You can't pass those up.
Nope. Shout out K Dubs.
Okay, Dubs.
Piece of advice you'd give yourself in an earlier version of your life.
Oof. Piece of advice.
This one's a deep one. Deep
This
cuts.
is a deep one. Mine would probably be something along the lines of relationship advice. Not always quality over quantity, maybe in relationship advice. Sometimes settling isn't a bad thing. That's probably where I would go. If I had to go with a deep one, just especially current day and everything, would probably give myself some better relationship advice. I know I've gotten a lot of good financial advice, a lot of good other advice just by some stuff that family members have been going through. So that has had a positive influence on me because I've seen what they've had to go through and I know what I don't want to go through based on what they've had to go through. So, yeah, and I would probably go back and tell myself, figure out how to respect, appreciate, and love yourself before you try to get in any romantic or personal or family or any relationship. That's something I'm continuing to work on each day. So that would be mine. Something along the lines of figure out how to love the heck out of yourself and then move forward from there.
No, I think those are good ones. Especially, we don't need to hash out stuff, but knowing you and where you've come from, what you've been through, sage wisdom there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For me, I would say, become a finisher. I have a bad habit of being a really good starter. I get really good starter's enthusiasm. And then as whatever it is goes, I generally get tired with the grind or bored with the grind. We shouted out Kyle, our buddy Kyle. He knows that I'm a habitual, something a little bit more lighthearted. I'm a habitual not video game finisher. I start tons and tons of video games and I just don't finish them because I get bored and I want to move on to the next one. So he always makes fun of me for not finishing video games because he's like, oh, the ending was really good. And I'm like, I never got there. So he gives me a hard time for that, but just becoming more of a finisher with video games and not just video games, but just a finisher in life, finish projects, finish things that I want to start and see things through. Trying to think. I didn't think this one through from a personal standpoint. I was more curious to hear what your answer was going to be.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, though, Big Red. I know we've talked about this a lot in our weekly guys calls, where you have brought up that same thing about wanting to finish and stuff. I think you have made progress. I think that's why I was so interested in jumping on and doing the podcast with you. Because I know we're both going to motivate the heck out of each other. We're not going to let each other quit, and we're not going to let each other fail. That's another thing I respect the heck out of you most. So that's why I really enjoy doing these weekly podcasts with you. And I know we're going to keep this thing going strong.
Yeah, I mean, in that regard, we've almost doubled up the episodes. No shots or anything. I love doing it, and you and I have talked about why the other version that I tried previously with a different podcast and our buddy Derek, that one was all in person, which was a different complication, and the format that we had just made it very, very difficult to try and have that one keep going for multiple reasons. I learned a lot through doing that, but we're already almost doubled up at 7 episodes compared to, I think him and I did 4 episodes total of that one before we called it quits. And just having done that before and experimented with that, we learned a lot from that. I mean, to your point, this year for me has been a lot about finishing. I wasn't really planning on taking this down this road, but like setting my Peloton goal of 1,000 miles, and I'm almost halfway. Now that we're almost halfway through the year, we're motoring through that.
Yep, it's been good with the banter between you and I and the Snack King, going back and forth and trying to. It's good to have that competitive edge too, and just other people to motivate you. And not even necessarily that we're holding each other accountable, but in a sense we are. Sometimes you need that kind of stuff in life just to get through some different things. So that's been good as well for me.
We all have those weeks where you just don't feel like getting in the gym, don't feel like sweating. And then I think it's those weeks when you don't feel like it and you get a really good sweat and like your buddies are pushing you and you get somebody in your ear a little bit and you do get that really good workout in. And all of a sudden it's like, man, I needed that. That was just a total palate cleanser for my body and for my soul.
And if there's one person I love being competitive with, it's Hamilton for some reason.
Oh yeah.
So whenever he brings it out, and if he goes 7 miles, I'm going 7.1. Just out of pure, except for running. We tried to run against each other at Guys Weekend a couple years ago. Nope. This big guy doesn't run distance. So I'll bow out to him in that. I'll tip my cap. But anything else, I'm fighting till the end.
He's an elite runner. I tried to run with him and another guy from our office several years back, and they asked me what pace I was going to run at, and I didn't. This was well before I did anything anywhere near how I run now. I would barely consider myself a runner, and I didn't even like have a pace to give them. I didn't run enough. That's where I was at that point, and they were like, "Oh, we were thinking like a 7:45 mile pace, something like that, like just real light, easy, like just soft jog." I was like 7:45 mile. I was like, I don't know if I could do that. Like that feels like a dead sprint to me. I don't know if I could do that once. Forget running multiple miles at that pace.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's an elite runner. I will give him credit for that.
Yeah.
All right. I think you got one more.
Yep, I got one more. Alive or past, and money is no issue. Which musician would you love to see perform live?
This is a really, really good one.
I think you know who mine is. I bring him up all the time.
Yeah, I think so. I think I do.
While you think, I always bring out, and I always joke whenever we have a work meeting, they always bring in a live performer and like, who do you think it's going to be? Who do you think it's going to be? And I always joke that it's going to be Tupac, that he's going to come back because everybody still thinks, and I still think he's alive. But that's one for sure. I would love to go eventually. Well, not eventually because obviously he's passed, but I would love to see Tupac live for some reason. Just, I don't know. Especially listen to it more and more as we get older and just kind of what was going through things in that generation between him and Biggie and like socially. It would be interesting to get his take on things now, X amount of years later in 2025, when he was kind of going through some of the stuff that's been in the news and that kind of stuff recently. So I think it'd be interesting to see what kind of music he had if he was still alive today. But that's that way. He's always been at the top of my list.
I've got a few. I'm having a hard time deciding between them. Wildly different reasons, wildly different styles of music. Kanye would be an outrageously good show. Kanye's got a massive book of music and would be a wild show. Morgan Wallen is way up there for me. Love Morgan Wallen. Think that would be an outrageously good concert. He's got a massive list of top songs, just absolute bangers. And then one that I've always told Brittany that I would love to go to, just from like and as I get older this gets less desirable, but just from like an overall party standpoint, I think Flow Rida would be outrageous in South Beach.
Oh, I think that that would be nuts. I don't know if I'd want to be in that crowd. Maybe.
Like if you could get, like if you're talking about going to anything, like let's just classify it, like you could get your own like club seats or your own box seats or whatever.
Oh yeah, money no issue. Yep, I would agree. Yeah, that would be good too.
You get a box or like something like that to go watch Flow Rida in South Beach, where you're somewhat segregated from the crazy crowd, and like you could have a group of like your closest friends there with you, like 20 or 30 people that were closest to you, like hanging out. Like Flow Rida is just an absolute vibe. Like just start ripping some drinks, having a good time. Like he's just, all of his music is just upbeat party music, just full 10 out of 10. So yeah. I think that would be outrageous.
Yeah. A couple more for me. Obviously, I'm always the boy. I love Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Boys to Men. I think I've seen in concert 6 times, maybe 7 times. Amazing.
Really? I didn't know that.
I get people judge it, and people look down, people think what they want to think. I don't care. I'll keep going. I love the 90s R&B. Any 90s R&B.
I didn't know you've been to see him once.
Oh, yeah. Yep. I meant to see him in Vegas. They used to be out in Vegas, and I tried to look them up when I was back there a couple weeks ago. They weren't there, or they weren't playing, but I would have seen them again. Amazing show.
Sea Breezy's got to be out there for you.
Oh, yeah. Love Sea Breezy.
That's a deep cut.
Yep. Love Chris Brown. Him and I, his music really hits me. Going back to that whole relationship thing we were talking about earlier. Him and I are on the same wavelength when it comes to that. Not some of his extracurricular things, but when it comes to his music, that's my guy.
Set the personal stuff aside. I mean, I think personal standpoint, most people that get to that level, I mean, everybody's flawed. So,
yeah.
All right, last one. We'll finish up with this. Dinner with two famous people. Who would it be and why? It could be separate dinners, but two famous people and why?
Do they have to be alive?
No.
So mine are both obviously Eagles. One's a player, one's a coach. Um, Jim Johnson, the Eagles defensive coordinator, from the Andy Reid area, the late '90s, early 2000s. I've always read so many good things about him, about how he was such a great father figure and a leader and a motivator and passionate that and apparently Redford's having a for those of you who are listening, Redford just had a whole bunch of balloons, so maybe something I triggered got a little passionate over there and he popped some balloons like a birthday. But yeah, Jim Johnson for sure. Love to have dinner with him. And then my all-time favorite, and I know we've already given him a shout out in one of the other podcasts, hoping that he was a big fan of the orange cinnamon roll. We're still waiting to hear back from him. I think he is, so maybe he will be. Is Brian Dawkins, Hall of Famer number 20. Some of the stuff he had to go through to get to where he was as a Hall of Famer, defensive back safety for the Eagles, through mental challenges, through a whole depression, a whole bunch of different stuff that he had to go through is very commendable. He's a very religious man. He's a very dedicated husband, dedicated family man. He's been through a lot of stuff. I think a lot of people would look at him and say he's been handed it. He had to earn every inch of that. So, um, just from the way he played and the passion and the way he brought it every single day and how he laid it out there is, I don't know, the guy is just amazing. And I would be very blessed to someday if I actually got to break bread with him. So those would be my two. What about you?
We won't get too deep into politics, but first on my list would probably be Trump, just from the overall experience. Like I said, we won't get too deep into political gestures or anything like that. We're gonna steer clear of that on the pod. But just from, like, in terms of, if you're talking about like a 3 or 4 hour dinner where you could sit down and have a one-on-one conversation, like if you listen to his Rogan conversation before the election, like, this guy he calls it the weave, and like your conversation is going to go in about 1,000 different directions, and it's going to be absolutely completely entertaining. Um, Again, I'm steering people towards a little bit of politics, but like if you go watch his Breaking 50 on YouTube with Bryson DeChambeau, that was very interesting as well. And like he in my opinion takes a pretty genuine interest in what other people are saying a lot of times. And like I think he is a better listener than what a lot of people give him credit for. But that would be up there for me. And just if you could inject him with like behind the scenes information juice or whatever, like the stuff that guy's privy to, like, and you could say that about any president, but the amount of stuff that he's seen, heard of, meetings that he's been a part of would just be absolutely insane. So that would be up there for me. The other one, I'm trying to think of who I would pick from a sports standpoint. I got a couple rattling around in my brain.
I'm surprised you didn't say Rogan.
Rogan would be up there with his level of conversations.
Or Portnoy.
Yeah, Portnoy would be up there. Neither one of those would probably make the cut. I'm trying to think
you
somebody
could go
more.
Do the pizza tasting rating with them, since you're all about that pizza too.
I'm gonna go Tiger Woods. I think if you could get, I think over the course of a 4 hour discussion or so, having a meal with him, I think you could break the code of Tiger Woods. And especially now it's less so. I think people have seen that recently with some of the stuff that he's done recently. But I think there's less of a hard exterior, especially as Charlie gets a little bit more in the limelight, his son, and like he gets a little bit more into the showmanship part of his career, not being a complete A1 athlete anymore. Obviously, those days are long behind him, but he's leaning more into the I need to be a personable person and sell myself and sell my brand now. That's how I make money versus just playing golf and being the best golfer in the world.
Yeah.
So I think having a 4 hour conversation with him would be very interesting too. That would be fascinating. Phil Mickelson would also be outrageously entertaining too.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that. Those are two solid ones.
So, all right, there's our random question segment to start today. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I
We'll
like
tee
that.
up something different.
Yeah.
Ones that we legitimately didn't know about each other, even though I would say we both know each other very well.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So, all right, let's pivot. Get back into normal programming here. We'll throw things over to NBA playoffs to start. And the boys are 3-1 in their predictions for series. We're 3-1. We're hot.
Yeah, and the one that I think we were all most confident in is the one that we failed at, which
Yeah.
is very surprising.
Our episode with Snack King, we laid everything out for the semis, and we picked the Thunder, the Wolves, we picked the Pacers, and then we had the Celtics rolling, and then the Celtics just completely laid an egg. We also didn't, I don't think, factor that much into the series. We didn't have Jason Tatum tearing his Achilles. That was unfortunate.
Yeah, that was rough. That was rough to watch.
Like I said, I don't think that ultimately decided the series. The series was, it was what, 3-1 at the end of that game, and that came at the very end of that game.
Yeah.
So, not a huge decider, but shout out us for the Pacers. I think that was the boldest prediction, and the Pacers absolutely steamrolled the Cavs.
Yeah. Yeah, that one, I don't know what I was watching the other day, but they were saying that all of the prognosticators, none of them gave the Pacers a chance. So when we were talking the other day, I was like, well, we actually got one right that nobody else did. And all three of us, you and I and the Stat King, all hands down had him winning. And I think the longest one we had him winning was 6. Maybe Hamilton had him going 7. But yeah, that was good. I had a really good feeling about that pick heading into it. I just felt like the Cavs had a good season. They were in the East. They finished first. And the role that Halliburton got on at the end of the season and that whole team and the way he was leading them and Siakam, it's hard to root against the Pacers and hard to doubt them. So it'll be interesting to see them here coming up against the Knicks, who are on a heater as well. I know every series I picked them to flop like they always do, and I don't know. Do I pick them now and then they flop? So that's yeah, we'll see. That'll be a good series. I don't think anybody had that one in the books. Knicks Pacers Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know how many people would have had that on their radar.
No, this will be an interesting Eastern and Western Conference final. West is very interesting. You've got two what I would consider up and comers, but two that I think could have some staying power, especially with the guys they have at the top of the roster. SGA versus Ant is going to be very interesting to watch. Very interesting to watch. That head-to-head matchup. I don't know how often we'll see. I guess the thing I could see as a matchup is Ant guarding SGA. I don't think SGA will guard Ant very often, in my opinion. No. But I think that one will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I would say this is a Western Conference final that not a lot of people had on the radar, but I think it's going to surprise a ton of people. I think that's going to be a good series. I think whoever comes out of that one's going to win the whole thing. I don't know. I really want to lean Timberwolves still. I think they're very well matched up. You got SGA, you got Ant, you got Hartenstein as a big versus Gobert. That's a big. I think you called it well in either the last one or the podcast before where you brought up Julius Randle. I didn't even have him on my radar. I think he might be an X factor in this series as well. I think they have a big 3. I think OKC is solid from player 1 to player 9 or player 10. I think they're very good on the depth side. It'll be interesting to see how Chet Holmgren is. He is a good player, obviously, but he is like a walking stick out there when you watch him playing. So I give him a lot of credit. I don't know how he ends up getting all those rebounds and everything, but yeah, I'm going to take the T-Wolves in this series. I'm gonna have them winning 4-2. As surprising as that is, it's even surprising for me to say it, but I can't go against the Wolves.
Yeah, I think this is going to end up being similar to what we saw the previous series. Honestly, in both cases, I think, like you said, the Thunder are better 1 through 9 than the Timberwolves. I don't know that the Timberwolves actually even go 9 deep when push comes to shove. The question for the Thunder will always be who's going to be number 2. And I think that dictates the series. If somebody emerges on for them in terms of 4 games where there's a bona fide number 2 behind SGA and steps up, that's why the series against the Nuggets went 7, in my opinion, is because there were 3 games where nobody really emerged as a true number 2 for them. So I think that guy's supposed to be Jalen Williams, and he had a couple of just absolute dog games. So we'll see what ends up happening there with that. I think the Timberwolves, I don't know. It's a tough. I think about the Thunder matching up defensively with and Randall, and I think that's going to be tough. I got the Timberwolves in 7. You said Timberwolves in 6?
Yeah.
All right, I got T-Wolves in 7. I think Ant-Man's the difference, though.
Yep, definitely. Yeah, and then on the Eastern Conference side, you got the Pacers and Knicks. Obviously, we just talked about that. Oh man, do I pick against the Knicks again and jinx the Pacers? I don't know. I can't. I got to pick the Pacers. I'm gonna say Pacers in 7 in this one. They win it at the Garden and break the Knicks' heart.
Man, I wanted you to pick the Knicks really bad so we could have opposite picks. I'm not going to pick the Knicks. I won't pick the Knicks. I hate the whole celebrity Knicks. I mean, there's people from LA that are showing up that are supposedly like now in the Knicks bandwagon that they keep showing on all these
Yeah, it's because
sideline
the Knicks
cams.
and the Lakers fans are all bandwagons.
Nobody even knows hoops.
Yeah.
Like they just show up and it's just a social event.
Yep. So they always flip flop. The same with the Yankees and the Dodgers. Whatever
Yep.
team is hot, that's who they're going to root for, regardless of if it's in their backyard or not.
Yep. So I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Pacers in 5. That's gonna be the bold prediction. Pacers in 5. They steamroll them.
I like it. I have a feeling that the Knicks are going to break both of our hearts, though, because every time I pick against the friggin' Knicks, they always come back and win.
Yep. I want the Pacers to reinstate Halliburton's dad too. I want him in the building after getting thrown out during the Bucks series. I think he's still technically banned, but I want him back in the building. So
yeah,
we'll see what ends up.
The other thing too is imagine that if the Pacers T-Wolves finals, 2 of the smaller markets in the league. Like you don't have the New Yorks, you don't have the LAs, you don't have the big ticket Texas teams or anybody in Florida, Miami Heat. You have the Indiana Pacers in Indianapolis, and you have the Minneapolis. So that'd be kind of cool to see two small market teams. It would give me a little hope that maybe the Hornets will be able to turn around at some point.
The NBA is pulling hard for the Knicks in this series because your Western Conference representation is very small market and very small national fan bases. There's not a lot of national Oklahoma City Thunder and national T-Wolves fans.
No, and I don't think they really care who comes. I think it's a toss-up if they'd rather have OKC or Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think either one moves the needle, really.
No, I think both of those markets are about the same.
So, all right, we got T-Wolves against Pacers is our prediction here on the pod. We're both in sync there, which means that the Thunder and the Knicks will probably be squaring off in the NBA Finals here in a week and a half.
Yep. So for those that are bettors, you know which way you have to bet, and you can bet it confidently. Although we have been we have been on a heater, but obviously I would still bet the Knicks based on our pick, but that's just me.
All right, we'll pivot real quick to some puck. We've also been on a heater with this, despite not really paying super close attention. You've watched a little bit more than me. Most of the NHL playoffs is decided. I'm just pulling up the score live because it's going on as we're recording. It is Game 7 against the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. It's tied at 0 early second period. Second period just started as we're recording now, so we don't have any real updates there. That one is going to be exceptionally tight. Winner of that one gets Carolina. Gets your Hurricanes.
Yeah, the Hurricanes, baby. I'm rolling with the Panthers. I kind of hope it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now that I've had some time to think about it since we first started talking about it before we hopped on, just because I think the Hurricanes have a much better chance against the Maple Leafs. I think the pedigree of the Panthers, and I don't know, it's hard to pick against them, especially if they're hitting on all cylinders. And the Hurricanes haven't had much luck against the Panthers. I just think the Panthers are going to take this. I'm actually going out to watch that game after we get done recording this, so it'll be interesting to catch up on it next week and see where it ends up. But I think the Panthers take that and face the Hurricanes. What are your thoughts?
This is so in regards to the game that's going on currently, massive legacy game for Austin Matthews as probably the second largest star in the NHL behind Connor McDavid in terms of overall name brand, especially playing in a huge hockey city like Toronto. Massive legacy game in Game 7. You don't get a ton of Game 7s in your career in the playoffs. He's got to find a way to deliver if he wants to have any semblance of a legacy here. This would make him an absolute legend in Toronto if he scored the game winner. So we'll see what ends up happening there. I think the Panthers squeak it out though. No, I'm going to flip-flop. I'm going to go back to the Maple Leafs. I'm going to contradict you because people don't say we don't disagree enough. I think it's very much a coin flip, especially because we're cheating now and the game's about halfway over already and it's still scoreless, so it could go either way. I think Toronto wins it in a squeaker late in the third period. I think they take it 2-1. That's my prediction to face Carolina. And then from there, I'm going to say Toronto goes on to the finals and loses to Edmonton in what will be an absolute clash of the Titans, and Canada is going to end up getting their first cup in like 50 years or something like that. So I skipped ahead there. I've got Edmonton beating Dallas. I think that's going to be a slugfest, though. I think that goes 6 or 7.
Definitely, yeah. I've fortunately or unfortunately watched a decent amount of Dallas Stars hockey, and again, we've talked about it multiple times. Dallas sucks. I'll never pick Dallas in anything. So I'm going to go with Edmonton, McJesus, Draisaitl. I think the league really wants the Oilers to. I think everybody wouldn't be mad if the Oilers won. I think they're a well-deserving team. I think that'd be a good matchup, though. Hurricanes-Oilers. Talk about two cities on the opposite side of the spectrum, too, as far as time zones, I think.
But, yeah, travel on that one would be wild.
It's a lot of freaking flyer miles. I don't know. I think it would be absolutely nuts down here. The whole North Carolina loves the Hurricanes, especially when you get up north and you get into the Raleigh area. It'd be electric here if they ended up making it to the Stanley Cup Finals. So that I'm gonna have to lean that way. I'm gonna have to go Hurricanes and Oilers, but I'm gonna have to ultimately say the Oilers are gonna end up winning this thing. But to your point, it's gonna be a slugfest. I think it's Rantanen is his name on Dallas Stars. Guy that had a hat trick in 2 straight games. Dude's nuts. He plays 2 different shifts. I don't know a ton about hockey, but that's not normal. And that guy is just superhuman right now. So it'd be interesting to see if he comes back down to earth.
Well, do you know the story and the backstory with him?
No, is it like Nico Rantanen or something like that?
Miko with an M.
Gotcha. No, I don't.
So 4 months ago, he played for the Hurricanes.
Oh, I do know that, and they traded him for another guy that they're both on and playing well for each team, right?
Yeah, and they traded. So 4 months ago, he was on the Hurricanes. Both are obviously playing. Both teams are playing well. They traded him to before the deadline. They traded him to Colorado. At the deadline, Colorado traded him. No, sorry. Colorado, I believe, traded him to Carolina before the deadline. Carolina then traded him to Dallas at the deadline, and now both teams are playing well. So, this dude has played for 3 elite playoff teams. This year, the last 12 weeks, I think he was on those teams, and just an absolute tank of a goal scorer. He's probably, I think he would, in hockey circles, he's probably a top 10 goal scorer in the league currently, something along those lines. So, dude's an absolute tank. So that to just automatically put Edmonton into the Cup final is probably foolish, because Dallas is here for a reason. They've got some serious depth. They've got some really good veteran leadership. Jamie Benn has played for a long time for Dallas. He's one of those guys that I think is in a lot of people's, like, he deserves a Stanley Cup list. A lot like Ray Bourque for the Avalanche way back in the day. I'm dating myself there. I remember when he got his first cup in the early 2000s, and people went crazy for that. So, yeah, I've got Toronto, Edmonton. Are you going Carolina, Edmonton then?
Yep, Carolina, Edmonton, and then I'm going to probably, at that point, right now I'd have to lean Edmonton, but we'll see how these next series go.
All right. There's our hockey recap. Talking puck, don't know puck. And then real quick, we'll hit on golf. We both watched the finish of the PGA. I only watched the final round. I didn't really have a chance to watch much else this weekend. Literally, as soon as I tuned in, everything went straight downhill, and it became completely unwatchable from the moment I tuned in. And Scotty Scheffler ended up running away with it. Ends up winning by 5 shots over a trio of guys. The finish from around an hour or so out was shaping out to be really good. John Rahm, I think, was tied even earlier than that, and ended up just completely bombing.
Yeah, he fell down to -4. He must have really fell off the cliff at the end there.
His last 3 holes, he was +5. So
geez, that makes sense, because I think they were, him and Scotty, I think he was at like -9 and Scotty was at -10 at one point. And then, I didn't even know where he fell off the leaderboard. I didn't know. I just checked. He went to -4. Dang. They were saying on the broadcast, though, like I was telling you, I didn't watch a ton of it, but I did watch this morning. I had it off and on when I was doing some stuff around the house. The tandem that had Rory in it. So I was watching him a little bit, go back and forth, and his struggles today. But they were saying hole 16, 17, and 18 were the toughest on the course today. And it was going to be a gauntlet to see who could get through those last 3 holes to the end. And I guess it came to fruition.
Yeah, I didn't see. I'm just scrolling down here. Rory finished at +3. He had a rough go of it this week. Not his best showing. People were pretty torn going into the weekend as to how he would perform. Some people were kind of thinking all the pressure was off him now, having won at Augusta. How's he going to perform? It's also hard to follow that up. I think maybe heading into the U.S. Open here in a few weeks, he might have a better performance. But I think he's just riding pretty high coming off of that Masters win. So that'll be interesting to see how he performs in the U.S. Open. But kind of a snoozer. Scotty gets his second piece of the career Grand Slam. He's got 2 green jackets and a PGA now, so we'll see how he does heading into the U.S. Open. One thing I teed up for you a little bit. In my opinion, I'm not saying he's the best golfer since Tiger Woods, but this is his 2-year stretch of golf right now is the best stretch of golf we've seen from a individual player, in my opinion, since Tiger Woods. Yeah. So the way he's performed, the way he's just never, it doesn't seem like he's ever actually like out of a golf tournament. It seems like he's always top 5, top 10, even if he's not winning. He's just always there. He's always on the leaderboard every week.
Yeah, and he's always the money lines are always behind him. The Vegas money lines. It's hard to. He's at the point where he's so competitive and always challenging for these titles that it's hard to even put any money on him, just because he's -200, -300, -400, -500, -600. So it's tough for people like me that always want to get the most bang for your buck. So if it's not a plus, normally I don't bet on it, which is probably stupid because you want to bet with where Vegas is telling you to bet because the house always wins. But especially if you're betting, you're gonna win more than you're gonna lose. You're just not gonna win as much. But the other thing too, I was just looking at it. Whatever happened to Spieth? How'd he fall off a huge cliff?
He hasn't been the same golf for the last handful of years, even.
I was gonna say, last time I followed golf a decent amount, Spieth was on the top of winning everything, and now it's like he missed the cut. He shot a 76 on day one. It looks like I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if he's ever able to rebound. I think he's still fairly young.
Yeah, golf right now is in an interesting spot because there's really honestly like three or four guys that have really dominated most of golf, and it's Scotty, Rory, Bryson DeChambeau, and then he hasn't done anything this year because I think he's coming off an injury a little bit. But Xander Schauffele had two major wins last year, and it's been those four guys the last 2 years have really had a chokehold on the game. And I mean, Scotty obviously won today. Bryson finished T2. Rory wasn't really in the hunt, and Xander wasn't really in the hunt either. But I think from an overall dominance standpoint, you look at those guys, and then I mean, you could sprinkle in Colin Morikawa's got two major wins now too, and he's got one recently. But man, it seems like it's one of those three or four guys that wins the big tournaments all the time, at least the last few years. So golf's in kind of a weird spot. They are getting star power, but I don't know. Golf also doesn't. It's never known for personalities either. Kind of in a weird spot there. Scotty doesn't really have this hugely flamboyant personality that people flock to, and like he's pretty low key on interviews. Pretty easy, even keeled guy, honestly.
No, but I don't know if you watched after his last putt, he kind of played it off, and then he took his hat and he gave it the Gronk spike into the 18th green.
Oh, I missed that.
And then he was dropping F-bombs. And
that's pretty cool.
I was like, oh man, showing a little passion, a little heat.
A little emotion.
Like you didn't think anything that they go out and they win and it's all that, so you don't think there's that much passion and emotion behind it. So that was kind of cool as somebody who's passionate about stuff and gets heated about stuff. It was kind of cool to see that somebody actually being real.
Yep. It's interesting when you get to pull back the curtain a little bit and actually see the person behind the stoicness, so to speak.
Yep.
So the only other thing we can hit on it real quick. You can take lead on this one. NFL schedule dropped this past week. Lions have the most difficult. So hometown Lions. Shout out Reggie. We'll give Reggie a shout out.
Reginald. Yeah, not too much here. I thought that it gets way too much fanfare every year, and there's always a date where it says, all right, Wednesday, 8:30, the schedule is going to be released, but it starts to trickle out on the Sunday before and all. So it ruins I always liked the day it got released. I'd tune into NFL Network or I'd record it, and they would go through all the matchups. But now it just gets a little bit ruined because the NFL wants to grab everything, right? So they start releasing bits and pieces on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday and little teasers. So it kind of knew the top teams' schedules for the most part on the national stage early. But yes, the Lions have the number one most difficult schedule. That's going to be a gauntlet. Obviously, different years, different teams, and that kind of stuff. But their division has made some pretty big moves, quarterback-wise, coaching-wise, draft-wise, free agent-wise. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out for them. I still think they're the top dog in that division until things change. But being an Eagles fan, I know it's not easy when you have not wholesale coaching changes. Obviously, they still have Dan Campbell, but you have a new DC, a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator, a new voice in there. So it takes a little time to adapt to that. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle it. Then my team, the Eagles, have the fifth toughest schedule. They play the Lions, obviously, this year too. They have finally some consistency in the coaching staff. We got to keep Vic Fangio on the defensive side. Kellen Moore obviously had left, so it'll be Jalen Hurts, I think, 8th different offensive coordinator in the last 8 years, dating back to college or something crazy like that.
It's outrageous.
So it's kudos to him. I mean, he has a different voice in there. Obviously, he had some consistency at the head coaching position a little bit with Alabama, a little bit with Oklahoma, and he's had Sirianni, which has been good. So it'll be interesting to see that. But I think the schedule release is a little overblown. I think every year the talking heads have their predictions early on, and they have all these AI generated who's going to come out of where and all that kind of stuff. Apparently the Buffalo Bills have the easiest schedule, and I guess the last few times that that's happened, they have either missed or come close to missing the playoffs. So, I mean, you're one play away, you're one injury, you're one drop pass away. I mean, it's fun to talk about, and it's fun to have an outlook on that kind of stuff. But to me, I always take it week to week. You know how I am with the Eagles. It's always play by play, week by week, and you can win on paper, but that's not going to get you very far.
Well, that's just it, right? Like anybody that's hashing this stuff out, everything's super fluid. Like injuries are going to radically change multiple team seasons. I mean, on paper, if you got the Chiefs on your schedule, that's going to ramp up the difficulty. But, I mean, we're not calling for anybody to get hurt, obviously. But if Mahomes went down for any period of time, that radically changes how the Chiefs' difficulty against other teams is going to be. Same thing with, I mean, literally every team losing their quarterback, basically. Like, Hurts goes down for the Eagles. We saw that when he missed a game last year. The way the offense flowed just wasn't nearly the same. Lions are the same way with Goff. If he goes down, there's just nobody ready to step up behind him. Like, teams don't have two good quarterbacks. It's all you can do to get one good one. So things are going to change. Things are going to get altered. People are going to get banged up in training camp like they always do, unfortunately. That's the way it goes. Excuse me. We'll see what ends up shaking out. I don't know. I think it's going to be a dogfight this year between the Lions and the Packers for the North. And I think the NFC East is going to be... I think it's going to be a three-way fight. I think the Cowboys are going to be more interesting than what people are giving them credit. I'm not calling for the Cowboys to be good, but what I am saying is having Dak back and healthy, I think they're going to get significantly more healthy on defense too. And I'm not trying to say that I want the Cowboys to be good. I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers there, but I just think they will be better because they won't be led by Cooper Rush. So
yeah, I don't disagree with you there. All the AI and all the talking heads have Washington, which I don't blame them. But they also did the same thing last year when C.J. Stroud had a really good rookie year. Everybody picked the Texans, and then you see how that happened. So it's all year to year. So, but the Eagles on paper, player for player, man for man, should come out of that division. But
I think the Eagles' biggest questions are on defense, right? Like, because they're returning basically the entire offense.
Yeah. Yep. We got some really good pieces in the draft, though, that I'm excited about. So it'll be the interesting piece will be who our cornerback 2 is and who our second edge rusher is going to be. Other than that, I think they'll be pretty solid.
I think the biggest question heading into Eagles offseason or as it continues that I saw, because we're following a bunch of Eagles accounts on X. Follow us on X as well, at DSTM Pod 1 on X. Give us a follow. I saw that A.J. Brown is complaining about how the cost of haircuts has gone through the roof.
Ooh.
Doesn't like what he's paying.
Yeah.
Says doesn't make a whole lot of sense. He remembers paying $20 for a cut, and he's apparently not paying that now. I'm not paying that. So he's not wrong. Cost of haircuts has gone through the roof. So
inflation, my friend.
Yeah, cost of a lot of things has gone way up. But
Yeah.
A.J. Brown spouting off about the cost of haircuts. And if he's getting anything done with braids or anything like that, I could see him paying a few shekels. So
definitely.
AJ Brown, reading books, getting haircuts, paying too much.
Inner
So,
excellence.
yep. But other than that, I think that was kind of all of our itinerary for today. So I think we can kind of put a bow on things.
Sounds good. As always, we'll tag. I always say that we have it, but this time we're actually going to tag some social media on X, on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can give us a follow. That'd be great. Appreciate it. Give my dad a shout out, Rudy, for always dropping a comment in there. So showing some love and sharing that. And as always, Big Red, episode 7. Still have not spilled our mixie. It's been a pleasure as always, my friend, and looking forward to episode 8 and many more. Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.